Welcome in Woodward Bets on a beautiful Wednesday evening here in the Metro Detroit area. I am Bear, joined as always by my boy Scott, and another full day of sports to talk about here. As always, we are here to discuss everything in the fantasy sports world, DFS season long, as well as betting. We have a huge baseball slate to talk about, Scott. We're going to recap some of the stuff we talked about yesterday, waiver wire pickups, look at some interesting names that maybe we didn't hit on yesterday, a return to the NFL that we need to discuss as well. But before we get into anything here, before I even get to you, Scott, I want to welcome in a new sponsor to the show here, and that is Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you're not familiar with Underdog Fantasy, you've probably been living under a rock, but let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. NFL season well underway, as we know. You can still draft a new fantasy team each week on Underdog Fantasy to win cash prizes. So, basically a best ball format. You draft it, forget it. You don't have to mess with it at all. So it's not too late to get into the action. Through their slick mobile app and user-friendly site, you can join a league and draft a team in literally minutes. Plus, the folks at Underdog going to help you get started with a free $10. Who doesn't love free? So when you sign up, make your first deposit, use the promo code WSN. That's WSN as in Woodward Sports Network. So just go visit UnderdogFantasy.com in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Sign up with the code WSN, deposit $10, and you get $10 free. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WSN. So, Scott, exciting news here, bringing in Underdog Fantasy as a sponsor of the show. I personally love Underdog, do a ton of drafts, not only in the preseason, getting ready for football, but like we said, each and every week there's drafts available as well. We got NBA right around the corner, going to sneak up on us as well, so excited for that. So, welcome in, and welcome to Underdog as well.
Oh, that's awesome. It was really good to have those guys. And I actually think I was looking on their site. I think they have a football contest. It's kind of like from week 6 to week 17, I believe they got coming up. So you can get in there and draft, and they got a pretty good prize. I want to say it was maybe $100K or so up at the top. Could have been even a little bit more. I kind of briefly read it, but I thought that was pretty interesting. So we got a couple weeks to get in there and draft some best balls and ride it off for the rest of the year. Sounds fun.
Absolutely. So again, make sure WSN on your promo code. Who doesn't love $10 free when you sign up for something? So a ton of different drafts there. Drafts as low as $1, high stakes stuff as well. So make sure you go and check that out and use that code WSN. So again, Scott, today we're going to break down MLB. We'll save that for the end. We got another big slate of games here. We're going to look at some more early line moving in the NFL. And of course, our KMA segment, who tilted you in your fantasy league. So we want to hear from you guys. Make sure you get over on Twitter and follow us at Woodward Bets. Make sure you're following the network at Woodward Sports. So let's dive in, Scott. Let's kind of recap yesterday. We talked about some season-long pickups. Waivers usually run either Tuesday night in most of my leagues. Some still run Wednesday night. So still some people out there that maybe missed yesterday's segment. So just want to do a quick recap on a few of the guys we talked about. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard, a big pickup with the injury to Christian McCaffrey. Some of the peripheral numbers looked really good with him. I know there's some Royce Freeman supporters out there. I'm actually a Royce Freeman guy. He looked pretty good the other night, but it looks like Hubbard's going to get the majority of the work. Peyton Barber, we talked about with Josh Jacobs, possibly not playing again this week. Now, that game's Monday night, so you got to tread lightly with that one. Emmanuel Sanders, I'm pretty high on as a pickup. And the guy we didn't talk about, Scott, and I want to get your feedback here, Josh Gordon, back in our lives. Now, this is an interesting tale. We've seen the ups. We've seen the downs for Josh Gordon. Let's look at this from a fantasy lens. Obviously, from a real-life lens, you want to see guys like this succeed that have worked to get back and, have been through trials, tribulations, whatnot. So that part we'll leave to the side. We're here to discuss fantasy. So touch on those guys that we talked about yesterday. And how do you see Josh Gordon fitting in this Kansas City offense, if he fits at all? Maybe we don't even see much Josh Gordon. Where are you at on him? Because I know he's going to be a popular discussion point here amongst people looking to make some ads this week.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of a wait-and-see type approach. I mean, if he was on a team where I think he may be like the number 1 or number 2 receiver, I think, I would have been really interested in him as a pickup. But, I mean, there's only so many balls and touches that go around in that Kansas City offense, and we already know that, you got a lot of guys already kind of set in their ways there with Hill, Kelsey, Hardman, CEH. So, it kind of does make it tough. I mean, yeah, sure. On paper, it looks great. But again, there's only one ball to go around. And, it seems like we see this every year. He'll practice for a few weeks. And then, how many times has he screwed up and then he's back? I mean, it's like the Steve Howe from, the 80s. He's been suspended 8-9 times and just keeps on coming back. But, hey, if the guy's trying to turn his life around, I'm all about him getting another chance. If he's gone through all the protocols and everything he needs to go through to get himself back reinstated and the NFL is happy with it, then, hopefully Josh Gordon's doing the right things he needs to do for his life. And you know what? Hey, he's got a chance to win a Super Bowl, so hopefully he keeps his shit together and keeps himself clean. But yeah, we'll see how it goes down. I think, being on a really good team like that will help a guy like Josh Gordon. But I'm a little concerned that, some things that we can talk about here, we'll get to with the Chiefs, with Andy Reid's situation. I don't know what's kind of going on there. So, is he going to have that kind of fatherly figure that Andy Reid comes across to me, like with this player, seems to be a friendly guy. But yeah, that'll be interesting, but I'm not going to buy into that. I think I'm just going to let some others buy into that myself.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat here. I mean, as much as I love the player that we saw back in, 2012, 2013, whatever that season was, really haven't seen much from him since, and it's really tough for a guy to just come off the streets. And I'm sure he's been working, no doubt, but you can't just duplicate and replicate what a real life NFL game is. And we've seen that out of people sitting out for a year. Hell, we saw that out of, guys that sat out of college for a year. Even Jamar Chase got off to a slow start in preseason. So I'm more with you. I think if you have a very deep league, some of these rosters that go 20 plus, yeah, why not? Throw him on the bench and see what happens here. But expecting him to come in and make an impact, I think is a lot. Now, a weapon in a Patrick Mahomes-led offense is obviously something you have to have some interest in. But how many guys have we seen fail that aren't Tyreek Hill trying to play wide receiver in that offense? So to me, you leave him on the sidelines unless you really want to speculate in a deep league. But I wouldn't go overly excited. I had a guy in my league, and I got to call him out here. One of my main leagues, this guy spent every single fab dollar he had on Josh Gordon. So he's the more optimistic case on this. I didn't even put a bid in. So that shows you kind of where people are at with this, is why we wanted to bring it up here on the show. But I'm leaving him on the sidelines. So any of those other guys, Scott, anything changed from yesterday? Anybody you want to add to the mix? Evan Ingram, a guy that I'm going to have more and more interest in. I know we hit on him yesterday. So gave a ton of pickups. So if you didn't listen to yesterday's show, hey, shame on you. Go back and check it out. We listed about 10 to 12 guys that we liked on the waiver wire. So anything else here with waivers, Scott, injuries, no major updates yet on guys like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. So as we get closer to the weekend, we'll see, is it going to be another Alexander Madison week? One situation I'm really keeping an eye on here is the San Francisco running backs. I mean, they are in a fantastic spot here against the Seattle Seahawks, a team that's really struggled against running backs this season. But is it going to be Trey Sermon? Does Elijah Mitchell come back? Do we get more Kyle Juszczyk being heavily involved in that offense? So that's what I'm certainly keeping an eye on, along with those other big-name running backs.
Yeah, I think Chuba is the guy that I had. I got one of my leagues. Unfortunately, I'm at the top of the waiver wire, which means I'm not doing too well. So Robert Woods and going thin on running back kind of has got me in a pickle at this point. But I think, for me, I think Chuba is going to be the guy I'm going to go after. Injury like that to McCaffrey and that type of offense, I just think he's got the highest upside. I usually try to go for upside in my first few weeks, try to land somebody that's a waiver wire sleeper to put you in the playoffs and get you over. I mean, a lot of times throughout the years, we've seen that time and time again where, a waiver pickup in week 2 or 3 is one of the key integral parts to getting you to the end of the, road for you. So, I that's what I'm going for. I mean, really to fill a hole, I could go after like Emmanuel Sanders or somebody like that, but I'm going for the upside, going for the home run in my pickup.
Yeah, you play a lot like I do. You don't shoot for the stars. We're not here to get second, third, fourth. We're here to win, baby. Woodward Bets. We are here to win. So I don't hate that at all. So let's move on from free agents and our weekly segment we want to have every single Wednesday is going to be a tilted / KMA, and you can figure out what KMA means. We want to get you guys the opportunity to let us know, is there a player? Was there a league mate that pissed you off? Was there a specific play out there? And I know Scott has a play that he wants to highlight here for our KMA segment this week. So, Scott, I can't top your KMA here. I'm going to be honest here. I got a few guys that really tilted me this weekend, but I'm going to give you the floor here to introduce this KMA segment for this week and exactly what we're looking for. So, what do we got? KMA here for week 3 in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, we all know here. I mean, you're a Packer guy, so us Lion, you can let the Lion guy here take this one here, obviously. So everybody already knows where I'm going. But, we're going to have to say KMA to that 66-yarder, the delay of game, the timeout by Campbell, hitting the crossbar, Tucker, and then the thing is, too, I mean, if you had the Ravens teaser from 7.5, it went to 1.5, and that cost you your bet, too. So it's like, just KMA, it's just so tilting as a Lions fans. It's just a new way for us to lose, record field goal there. But all the things that went up to it, like we talked about yesterday, just added up and just caused for that perfect storm. But damn, 66-yard field goal for us to lose. And, I got to give a shout out to our boys here at Woodward Sports, sticking them with their great call on the end of that game.
18, he could beat us here 19-17. 60, or the city of
Detroit will celebrate. Is that 64 or 66? 66-yard attempt. No way. No way. Get the hell out of here, Justin Tucker. Get the hell out of here.
This is the kind of stuff that happens to the Lions.
No way.
He's making this.
No way.
This is the kind of stuff that happens to the Lions. And he nailed it.
No way.
I told you. Oh, he's short.
Oh,
it hit the bar.
Oh,
did it hit the bar?
Oh my God, it went over. Oh no.
Oh my God.
But that's a funny video to watch those two. I mean, that's just perfectly the way us Lions fans generally feel. Some of us cry and the rest of us laugh.
Yeah, you guys got to go check that out. So it's a lot of views on that video for good reason. I mean, poor Stick is just absolutely destroyed after that field goal. And I've watched this thing 100 times, and I still don't understand how it hits the front of the bar and not only goes through, but like catapults into the net. So only the Lions. So I wanted to give you that because I'm riding high on the other end. My Packers have a come from behind, big field goal to win the game. So, I'm more in the boat with the Ravens fans here who we're excited to just get out of Detroit with a victory. So my KMA, I'm going to stay with Detroit. And a guy, this is a short-term KMA. I want to get this out of my system, and then I want to go right back to TJ Hockenson here. Was majorly invested in week 3 in DFS, 20 targets over the first 2 weeks. Baltimore, smart game plan against him. Let's take him out of the mix, make somebody else beat us. So only saw 2 targets in that game, but we also didn't see Jared Goff throwing the ball a ton in week 3. So love going right back to TJ Hockenson. So this is going to be one of those quick arguments, and then you move on. And that's what this is here. So he's one, and of course I highlighted on the other side of that game, Hollywood Brown really cost me. Now, this one is a long-term KMA. Not only once, Scott, he can kiss it a few times because 2, probably 3 touchdowns he blew of Lamar Jackson. So not only did he affect his own shares, he affected Lamar Jackson's stats. He also affected my Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown stacks in some of my good DFS lineups this week. So Hollywood Brown really standing out as a KMA for me this week.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I saw him drop a couple there. Like I said, I was at my daughter's soccer game and saw a couple people with some tilting type tweets on Twitter. How you dropping this? But I got another one too. I was going to bring up. I played a little bit of Miles Sanders in that Monday Night Football game. How do you get 2 carries? I mean, come on, that's a little tilting as well. And then obviously I've brought up Robert Woods a couple times. Only 124 yards in his first 3 games, 11 catches. Come on, dude. That's pretty tilted. But I want to bring up about our tilted and KMA thing. A big thing in fantasy is we are never, ever, ever going to tell anybody to go and give a player shit or tell them to kiss their ass. That's why we want this segment. We'll leave it between us. You don't ever give a player shit on Twitter. We see a lot of that a lot of times. You know what? That's kind of why we have this here. we'll just keep it between ourselves and get to talk about it ourselves and, poke some fun at some friends. And you know what? We may be a little upset with the guy next week, but as DFS players, as we all know, Chris, we got to have short memories and get rid of that thought and move on to the next week. So, but yeah, I just want to be sure that everybody knows we would never, say anything like that direct to a player or anything of that sort. So just that's what this segment's for, just for us to vent a little bit about some things that may have stung us a little bit the week before.
Yeah, don't be that guy or gal. I mean, you see a lot of that out on social media, and some of these guys getting death threats. Like, really? I mean, I'm as passionate as about anybody out there for my sports, but you have to draw a line. These guys are it's their job. They're doing the best they can, and most of them don't give a shit about our fantasy teams, and I'm okay with that. If they do, great. They understand that we're a big part of the culture as well, but. Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, ever is that okay to reach out to a player and say anything like that, even give him shit like you said. So let that go. And again, we've created this forum for you. We want to hear it. So every Wednesday we'll be doing this segment. Again, hit us up at Woodward Bets, and we want to hear your frustrations. I want to do one more here. The Giants really let me down, Scott. So outside of Saquon, the rest of them kind of all lumped in 2-1. I love the Giants spread. I love Daniel Jones in that game, and they really let me down there. So, again, you got to have a quick memory here. If you hold on to this stuff for too long, it affects your outlook for the following week. You have to go in with a blank sheet every single week. Yes, you factor in what's happened in the first 3 weeks, but you can't hold on to the really good stuff, the really bad stuff. You just have to look at the data, look at the numbers, and watch the games and see some of the things that you're seeing and let that factor in. So, anyone else here in KMA here, Scott, for week 3 before we move on?
Yeah, I want to say I think them Giants I know burned a couple people I know in their survivor pools and their suicide pools. So I'm pretty sure that one got a few people too. That one, and man, the Lions really could have probably eliminated a lot of people with Baltimore too. I'm sure that one was a pretty heavily taken game. So I'm sure there was some people quite upset and thinking that half their suicide pool might get bounced out. So I'm sure that came into play, but yeah, a lot of fun with the KMA. I like giving people some crap. So yeah, we'll look forward to continue that. Like you said, get over their Woodward Bets, and you want to poke some fun at a league mate or whatever else. Let's have at it, have some fun.
And even if you guys want to poke some fun at us, hey, we could take it. We're not going to hide from the misses. We're going to, hopefully have more hits than misses. That's the goal in anything you're doing. But don't be afraid to poke fun at us as well. Really, again, looking for this to be a fun, interactive community. So get over there and follow that page and continue to grow, continue to get better, continue to evolve, and super excited about what we got going here. So let's take a look at some of the most dropped players, most acquired players. Now, this is courtesy of our friends over at RTS Sports, Scott. Before we do that, so we said every Wednesday is going to be our KMA segment, but Friday, a big day as well. We want to hear your start-sit questions, your trade questions. We want to take all of those. So send those over at Woodward Bets again on Twitter, and we will take as many of those on the air as we can. No question is silly. Try to include as much detail as you can, and we'll try to walk you through our thought process. But let's take a look at some of the most acquired players. Scott, I'm going to rip through the list here, and then we'll kind of break down the key ones we want to talk about. Obviously, number 1, Chuba Hubbard, who we've talked about. Peyton Barber checking in at number 2. Dalton Schultz, tight end from Dallas, couple touchdowns last week. He checks in at number 3. Emmanuel Sanders, we talked about yesterday. Number 4, Hunter Renfrow, a guy we also spoke on yesterday, checking in at 5. Josh Gordon, number 6. Another couple tight ends here, Dawson Knox and Tyler Conklin, 7 and 8. Tim Patrick for the Denver Broncos at number 9. And a name we didn't discuss yesterday, but Marlon Mack checking in at 10. And this one, interesting, Scott. We can start here. This one feels more like a speculation play. It's clearly not from the play in the field. Marlon Mack didn't see the field in week 3. The big news was he's requested a trade. The Colts are going to try and find him a trade spot. And there's a few spots out there where teams could use a running back. Maybe San Francisco makes the call, and Marlon Mack's suddenly a 49er. There's a few spots. Maybe Baltimore is sick of this rotation of bums that they're rolling out. So there are possible destinations here for Marlon Mack. Talk about him and the rest of this list. What really stands out here?
Yeah, that's the kind of move, I mean, that really can put you over in a fantasy league. I mean, if you kind of believe and you want to get on that, you might be able to either grab him on the waiver wire, like you said. If somebody has him, you might be able to offer, something minimal as a trade for him if, you got a deeper type roster. But yeah, I mean, I kind of brought it up yesterday to some friends. It just seems like the NFL is kind of taking a weird change to where the running backs, especially the backs that are getting lion shares of the carry on certain teams, are diminishing. So if he can get over there and maybe get in a situation where he's going to get the lion share of the carries, get the goal line carries, yeah, that's going to be a huge upgrade for you. Yeah, like you mentioned, he ends up in San Francisco or somebody like that, and he gets like 80% of those carries. Man, he instantly could be an RB1, RB2. And yeah, you're paying a cheap price for him along the way. So yeah, I kind of like that call. Like you said, you and I, we like to go for no guts, no glory kind of stuff. I mean, we're going to take the chances, go for the high upside. And that's definitely an opportunity there that has a lot of upside, more so than you would get for what you're paying.
And if you do it now, you might pay a couple dollars. You wait for Marlon Mack signs with San Francisco. Now you're paying all of your fab, like my boy paying for Josh Gordon. So you want to kind of be ahead of some of these things and get out, look ahead. We talked about yesterday, even looking ahead at your team. Where am I going to run into buy issues? Where can I get out ahead of? Most people are looking at right now, this week. A big advantage in season-long leagues is looking ahead and making moves on some of these things before people even realize, setting up your defense for weeks to come, make sure you're having a quarterback, kickers, whatever it may be. Looking ahead, I think, is a big edge that not a lot of people do. So make sure you're doing that. So let's take a look at the most released players here for the week, Scott. We got James White headlining the list here. Not looking good with James White. Juwan Johnson popped in week 1 and then not much since. That New Orleans offense looks like it's going to be Alvin Kamara or bust for the most part. Mark Ingram, another guy, had a big week 1. We know that Houston offense is not going to be dynamic, likely playing from behind most weeks, especially this week at Buffalo. Jonnu Smith, a big disappointment, a guy that it took me a while to warm up to Jonnu Smith, but in that New England offense, when they went to Mac Jones, figured he'd be more highly involved. Just hasn't been the case here. So certainly understand that. Justin Fields, disappointing performance in week 3. Sterling Shepard, we saw get injured. Rondale Moore, a guy that's basically the wide receiver 4 there in Arizona, as good as an electric as he's been, just not getting enough opportunity. Ronald Jones, they're in Tampa. Darnell Mooney, another Chicago Bear, and KJ Osborne. So some interesting names here, Scott. You pick out a few that stand out to you. I'll discuss a few that I'm kind of surprised by on this list. Anything here shock you? Does it feel about right here on these top 10 drops?
Yeah, I thought Mooney kind of shocked me when I saw him on the list. I mean, they got a pretty good matchup this week. And then, Justin Fields, I don't know really how big some of these rosters are. So, it's more or less, I think people just saw that performance and just hit the panic button. But yeah, I thought Mooney is the one that kind of shocked me a little bit.
I'm going to go to the quarterback there. I know Justin Fields wasn't great, and he's dealing with a little bit of a hand injury, and this really depends on your bench size, but I'm not ready to give up on Justin Fields just yet. So I know a lot of people don't have the spots to roster multiple quarterbacks. And again, a thin bench, I certainly get it. But, if you got 6-7 spots on your bench, which some leagues do have that deep of a bench or deeper, I don't like getting rid of Justin Fields just yet. Rondale Moore, kind of the same case. I know it may take a lot for him to work his way in, but the guy is so electric with the ball in his hands. Sterling Shepard, another guy, I wouldn't want to pull the trigger on too quickly to release here. We'll see what the injury status is, but he's been outstanding to open the season. So few guys I think people are bailing on a little bit too quickly. I don't disagree on the Juwan Johnson, Mark Ingram, Ronald Jones especially. I think Leonard Fournette is going to start to take over more and more of a role there. So anything else here? Anyone we didn't discuss that you think is droppable, addable? Let's clean up here ads and drops for week 4.
No, I think you about covered it all. Like I said, I was just a little surprised with Mooney, but yeah, I'm all in on some Chuba.
All right, let's take a look at some line movement. Again, we are Woodward Bets, so we want to see where are the lines moving early on in the week. I'm a big proponent of getting in early. You see a line you like. We talked about some of the games that we liked early in the week before the line starts to move here. So Let's just run through these real quick, Scott, and we'll hit on a few that really stand out. Thursday night game, no real movement on this one. Jacksonville and Cincinnati. Indy and Miami. We've seen the under move down from 43.5 to 42.5, and it really makes sense. Both of these offenses have not been great, especially the Colts there. Buffalo started at minus 17.5, down to 16.5 here in that game against Houston. The total ticked down a point as well. Minimal line movement in that Dallas-Carolina game. Tennessee and the Jets have been kind of steady. Cleveland, Minnesota has really moved. Cleveland's gone from -1 to -2. The total has gone down a little bit, though, 52.5 to 51.5. Atlanta, Washington is one we've really seen a lot of movement. It started Atlanta -1, and it swung all the way to the other side. Now you're thinking, that's only 2.5 points. That's a big movement in the NFL, especially to flip from one team to the other here. So Washington now the favorite at -1.5. Total's gone down a little bit to 48. Chiefs started at -5 at Philly, now up to -7.5. Chicago has moved -3 to -3.5. That total's ticked down a few points. New Orleans has gone from 8.5 to 7.5 point favorites. Total's gone down a little bit. Rams, and this is one I talked about yesterday, Scott. I liked Arizona. I believe we got a 5.5 when we locked in, but they've gone from -6 now down to -4.5. So hopefully some people jumped on that one early and grabbed the Cardinals. No real line movement in Seattle, San Francisco. Same with Denver and Baltimore. Green Bay, Pittsburgh has been pretty static. Tampa Bay's gone up from -5.5 to -7. And the Chargers -3 at 52.5 has stayed kind of stagnant. So a quick run through of all of the line movements here, Scott. The Arizona one, again, really stood out to me as something we want to get on. What else here? Outside of that Washington one, and that one was a big movement from one team to the other. Anything else that really surprised you here in some of these early line movements?
Yeah, I was surprised by that Washington-Atlanta game, swapping as it did. I was surprised actually Atlanta opened up at the -1, but, this is something I generally like to take a look at on like Tuesday and Wednesday. I know you and I have before, but this is generally you like something, you know about it earlier in the week, you see it. This is about the best time of the week to get, your best line, some good pricing. Usually by the time Sunday rolls around, the books have had, 4 or 5 days of information, seeing how everybody likes, the spreads that they're putting out there. Because, obviously the reason for the spread is to try to get people balanced on both sides of the bet. So, I do like to pay attention to these opening spreads. One thing I did notice, though, is a lot of the games were bet down to the under, where you're losing a point or two on almost every over-under. So it seems like, a lot of the sharps, which most of the time the money coming in early is pretty much all sharp money. So definitely a good indication for you to check at. But I thought the one that got me was that Atlanta and Washington, how it changed so much. I was kind of watching that Tampa Bay and New England line. Already bet up 1.5 for Tom Brady. I thought that was interesting. If that gets too much higher, I may start leaning New England on that side at home. But yeah, just stuff to watch. Especially like the teaser numbers when you get them at them certain numbers like the 2.5s and the 2 and the 1.5s that get you over 7 with the 3, with the 6 points. So sometimes you can catch them numbers right at the right spot before they move real quick, and then you can get yourself in a good spot for the weekend. But yeah, the thing that stood out to me was all the unders getting bet down this week.
Yeah, a few spreads seemed a little bit too low, which makes you scratch your head a little bit. I thought Miami would be a bigger favorite at home against the Colts. I know they're rolling out a backup quarterback, but the Colts rolling out a guy with 2 busted up ankles, maybe don't have Quentin Nelson, their stud lineman. So that one seemed a little bit too low. Also, Green Bay only being 6.5 point favorites against a Pittsburgh team that's really been struggling. I mean, Green Bay played well at San Francisco. You got Pittsburgh that couldn't even beat Cincinnati at home. The Vegas Raiders go in and beat them at home. So that one I think that one will eventually get up at 7, above 7, but kind of surprising on that one as well. So let's transition now to MLB. Scott, another big slate of games tonight. 13 games on the docket here. So I know you got some stacks, some pitchers lined up. We'll close out with our best bets in MLB as well. So MLB, set the stage for the people tonight. A lot of games, a lot of choices to be made. Let's narrow it down for them. Where are you going tonight?
Oh yeah, great week of baseball, the final week. It's almost like playoff type baseball. And like we mentioned, we got some really important series going on. So, but as far as the DFS perspective, I've already been kind of looking into it as early as it is today. And, some pitchers that stood out to me, obviously Max Scherzer is going to be on the hill today. He's going to be one of the higher priced pitchers. And then you got Garrett Cole. So a lot of guys are going to be looking at that. But I'm just not a fan of paying 11.5 on FanDuel for Max or 11K for Cole. But for me, I think I'm looking at a guy like Max Fried, Aaron Nola, and Frankie Montas are three guys I like. All of them are in important games. I think basically, the manager is going to leave them out there, especially if they're pitching well. They need these guys to go 6-7 innings tonight. So I like those three. They're a little bit cheaper and it helps me get some bats that I like. Kind of looking around for me, big thing in baseball and FanDuel is to stack it up, and that means play. There's 8 hitters, so maybe 3 and 4 hitters from a side. Maybe pick 2 teams, 4 and 3, or you can go 4 and 4, which most people do. But for me, I'm always been looking to attack this Baltimore team. They got a pretty weak lefty, Lothar, on the hill today. The Red Sox are just a good team from top to bottom. So I've been attacking Baltimore almost every day. I have some sort of stack against Baltimore. That bullpen's terrible. They've been giving up quite a bit of runs. But I think one I'm going to get a little low on tonight is going to be the San Francisco Giants at home against Arizona and Kelly. I think, a lot of people are going to shy away from San Francisco at home. I know, they're one of the best hitting road hitting teams. But, you look at, they're very powerful at the top of the charts for home runs for MLB. So Arizona's just kind of mailed it in, going through the motions here. I think San Fran goes off tonight. I think I'm going to get them pretty low owned. So I'm looking forward to watching that game. And it's a later game, which, it's kind of fun to have some of them late hammers and watch yourself get over the finish line. But yeah, so those 2 stacks, Baltimore and San Fran. And then, like I said, my pitchers, I'm looking at Max Fried, Nola, and Montas tonight.
Yeah, I'm big on Max Fried tonight. I really like the spot for Atlanta. Fried's been outstanding. I mean, ERA under 2 since the All-Star break. A couple of shutouts against some pretty good offenses here of late. So he's on a roll right now. They're playing with some confidence. And I'm going to echo your sentiments there with the Giants, but I'm going to go to the mound. I really like Alex Wood in this spot here tonight. So those are 2 guys I'm looking at. As far as the bats go, hard to not like the Dodgers tonight. Just in a great spot. Against Weathers, a lot of guys in that lineup that hit lefties well, so they really stand out. In Minnesota, team I liked yesterday, going back to the well there, they're cheap. I know Casey Mize has looked good in spots, but I think for a value stack, Minnesota really makes a lot of sense here tonight. So, all right, let's close it up with our best bets of the night, Scott. I'll give you the floor here, MLB. Let's give the people some winners. What do you got here? Best bets for Wednesday night.
Yeah, just kind of looking around the MLB. I was kind of looking to see if I could find me 2 crappy pitchers that I could pick on, maybe try to find me an over-under that I thought was reasonable. And I came up with the Kansas City Royals and the Indians. Cleveland at Kansas City, we got over-under at 9. I don't think very much of Zach Plesac or Daniel Lynch at this point. I think Lynch will end up being a little bit better in his career as time moves on. But, you got Salvador Perez, who's on an MVP-type pace. I think the Royals here are actually going to put up quite a bit of runs. So I like Franmil Reyes in this spot tonight, along with Jose Ramirez. So just kind of looking at the lineups here, I think I really like the over here. Franmil just crushes lefties. And if you guys have ever watched Franmil, he's just a mammoth of a dude. He gets a hold of one, it's gonna fly a long way. But man, what a season Salvador Perez is having. So I'm gonna ride some of these hot bats with the Royals, and hopefully Franmil and Jose gets it done for me. But yeah, I'm looking at the over in this game.
All right, I'm also going to give you an over. I like the over in the Marlins Mets. Now, normally not 2 teams that you think about scoring runs, and some decent pitchers on the mound. I know Taijuan Walker certainly has his supporters, but my worry here, Scott, is these teams coming off a doubleheader yesterday. How much pitching is going to be available, feeling fresh, feeling ready to go? So if these guys can't go deep into the games, you're going to get into some wore-out bullpens, maybe some guys that probably shouldn't be pitching or even going deeper in the bullpen. I just think that's going to lead to runs scored here in this one. So I like the over in that one, 7.5, pretty low number there. I also like Atlanta. I mentioned Max Fried on a roll right now, -140. a pretty big price to pay. I normally don't like going that high on my baseball bets, but a 280 to win 200, something along those lines. I just feel really good about the way Fried has been pitching. We know pitching is so important in baseball, and I think he can limit the damage here and pitch another gem here. So I really like the Braves here at minus 140. So that will wrap us up. Again, make sure you send in your KMAs for every Wednesday. We want to include you guys in that segment. Make sure you get over and check out Underdog Fantasy. Again, promo code WSN, $10 free on a $10 deposit, and tons of different offerings over there from them. Also, make sure you send your start questions at Woodward Bets on Twitter. We'll be covering those every Friday. If it's trade questions, Dynasty, I play in a million different leagues, Scott. Season-long Dynasty. So we not only do DFS, so we're playing in all these leagues as well. So send those over as well. And lastly, make sure you're following all the socials at Woodward Bets and at Woodward Sports. So, Scott, final thoughts for the people here on this Wednesday night.
Yeah, just looking forward to some baseball. I got a couple waivers I got to do myself in some leagues, but yeah, going to be a fun night. Sit back, watch some baseball, and hopefully win some money in some DFS contests.
Absolutely. So we appreciate each and every one of you for listening. For Scott, for our boy Sawyer behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.